I'm a mother of three. My kids are 27, 22, and 17. So I'm on the opposite end of life than Katie. I'm starting to experience the bittersweetness of an empty nest. So, ed specialist, my background is mainly junior high, um, um, a special day class, and then I also did resource at the elementary for just a brief couple, like about a year. I really like the junior high. So those of you who teach junior high, you're my peeps. But so that's a little bit about the two of us and where we come from. So our agenda today, we're going to go over our learning outcomes real briefly, talk a little bit about our district and where Katie and I come from. We're going to do a deep dive into our visual supports catalog for you guys. And then we're going to kind of debrief, talk about how and what of visuals, give you some application time, and then we're going to reflect and maybe write some goals as to what you kind of want to walk away with today. There is a digital home base. That's where you can take notes. So if you'd like to open that right now, go ahead and do so. I'll give you a second. That bit.ly should be working. We will give you access to it later in the slides as well. So if you don't get it right now, it's okay. We'll have it up again later when we actually start using it. Okay. So our learning objectives today and outcomes that we want for you guys really is to identify various types of visual aids. So in our catalog, we have different types that we want you to look at today. And in doing that, we're also going to have you guys be able to express how visual aids work, okay? How you can clarify expectations of students that you're working with, provide clear directions for them, have them be able to have choices, just a lot of different ways of using those visual supports in your classrooms or however you are working with students right now.
Okay, so just to give you a little bit of a background about our district, we have almost 17,000 students. We have 21 schools. We're a TK through 8th grade district. So we have one K-8 school or TK to 8 school. We have 4 junior highs, and then the rest are elementary schools. Our student population is 95% Hispanic, 87% socioeconomically disadvantaged, 58% are multilingual learners, and then we have 1,600 about students with IEPs. So that's the makeup of our district. So our special education service delivery model, our district's really trying to move to a fully inclusive model. This is year 3 of that rollout. So right now we still have a couple full continuums of ESN classrooms. We have a continuum of autism classrooms. So K through 8th grade, we have autism classes for all those grade levels. And then otherwise, we're really trying to serve our students at in their least restrictive environment at their school of residence. So we have 2 to 4 ed specialists at each site now, because caseloads are larger. We have gotten rid of the mild moderate classrooms for TKK, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Next year we'll be at the junior high level. So it's for sure, it's big changes, right? It's come with growing pains. We're by no means here presenting today saying that we have it all figured out, but we're learning and we're trying to improve each day to make sure we're serving students with their peers. Part of this was our district, when they presented it to the board, they shared an example of a couple of students who had literally been in a different school every single year of their experience in our district because that's where the programs were. So they're never getting settled. They're never staying with their peers. They're having to shift every year. and that doesn't feel right to them either. So we're really doing our best to meet the needs of learners at their school site. That's the dream, their school of residence. So with this visual support catalog, these few slides that we're about to go into are also in the catalog, so that if you're sharing it with others, they have this information in there. Why are visuals so important? We know that they increase student independence. We know that they provide like concrete expectations for the learners, right? Words can go in one ear and out the other. It's hard to hold on to them, but a visual remains. It's that visual reminder that stays there that students can focus on, and it gives them more independence. They are evidence-based supports for everything that you see in this chart. So preschool and elementary level, they're evidence-based supports for social skills, communication, behavior, school readiness, play, and cognitive. And then as you get up, elementary and middle school, it's good for adaptive skills, academic skills. And we linked the resource there. So if you want to learn more or read more about it, that article is there for you. In our catalog, we've divided it into 4 sections, and the things that we've included are visual icons that you can maybe like wear on your lanyard to help give directions, visual schedules, classroom expectations, task analysis with visuals. We've also done coping strategies, break options, social stories. Like we really try to just jam pack it with a bunch of resources for you all, and for the teachers that are in our district. We also have how-to videos, implementation guides, actual resources you can download and print too. So our vision for this catalog is that you can use it to facilitate conversations with staff members that you collaborate with, train instructional assistants that are working with your students, provide like the information to general education teachers, right? So there's many resources in here for you. And I'm gonna go ahead and open it up and just not walk you through it in full, but just kind of show you how it's set up. And then we're gonna give you a few minutes to explore it on your own before we like get into the activities with it. So this is the catalog. So again, those slides and the research are at the beginning, how to use this catalog. So if you want to take it and share it with the people you work with, all of that information's there. This is the table of contents, so how we divided it up. So we sectioned the supports off to 4 different sections: clarifying routines and giving instructions, clarifying expectations, giving or making choices, and then knowing when reinforcement's coming. And so if you click on what's underlined, it'll take you to that section of the visual supports catalog. And then at the start of each section, you'll see a slide like this. So it'll list the resources that are available in that section. And then it has a video that explains why to use those resources and why they're important. We love this, this one. I think it's Little Autism Helper. She's amazing, has a wonderful, wonderful visuals. So her videos are on each slide to explain what you'll see in that section. And then as you go through it, like this slide shows, you'll have a video of how to implement it. You'll have linked resources that are either hyperlinked, like you see at the bottom, or if you see that finger pointing, that means that's a clickable link that'll download or take you to a free resource that we found on TPT. Some of this stuff is things that were created by us and our team. Other things are ones that we've kind of found elsewhere that are great examples. So for example, how I might use this catalog, that one way that's come up this year is having teachers use whole class schedules. And we know it's not enough just to like post them, right? Like once kids learn how to use them, great, they could figure out, oh, I have PE today or not. But we have a video example for lower grades and for upper elementary for how teachers can actually use them in their classrooms and go back and reference them. I feel like when our work, what we've noticed is that's often something that's missing when we support general education teachers. It's a great step to get that visual up in their classroom in the first place. But then to make sure that we can model for them how they get to use it throughout the day to where it becomes an effective tool, not just something that's hanging on the wall. So these are videos that you could share with a gen ed teacher who's looking for like, well, how do I do this? How do I model it? That would be a great place to start.
Okay. There's a lot in here if you haven't already looked, so sorry. Okay. This is one that I often go in and use with teachers. This is visual schedule to teach routines and break down tasks. This is great for when you're wanting to chunk things for students. You can also do something like this with a checklist. So they have the visual and then they have a checklist to follow up with it to make sure they're doing what they're being asked of. This is great. This example, a bathroom routine. You could do this for washing hands. You could do this for lining up to go out to recess or lunch, something like this, just those classroom routines that maybe students need assistance with. Another one that's great for this is the end of the day, packing up their backpack. Maybe they need to grab their Chromebook or they need specific items. That's where maybe that checklist comes into place so that you as a teacher aren't having to go around and do that verbal prompting all the time. Okay. Again, like Katie was saying, these are things that you need to teach. So yes, you have it in place, but you need to reference it and you need to make sure the students know how to use it and you're modeling it in your class for them. Okay. So we just thought we would kind of point out to you that are our favorites that we kind of tend to use quite often so that you guys, since you're going to do a deep dive into this, you're going to see a lot of visuals. We just kind of wanted to point out some that we thought that we kind of see being utilized quite a bit. Okay, so we have the visual supports catalog. If you haven't opened it already, there's the bit.ly again. We're going to give you about 3 minutes just to go through and familiarize yourself with the catalog. Click on links, kind of see how we have it laid out. Katie went over it real briefly, but now we want you to kind of take the time to look into the actual catalog so you can see what we're kind of going to focus on today a little bit more. We have a little dance party. If you weren't awake now, you are. Oh, goodness. All right, so we're gonna do a catalog scavenger hunt today. We're gonna let you guys spend some time, partner up with the people at your table, have some really good conversations about what's in this catalog. So the digital home base, I know I referenced it before, but if you want to open it up, it's linked in there. Everybody has access to that. So you're all going to be kind of typing on top of each other. So just be respectful of where people's cursors are. But as you explore and find things that we're asking you to look at, you're going to then be putting your thoughts into the digital home base. So Kitty's going to pull it up so you can see what we're talking about. I have a couple people pulling it up. We're good, Katie. Okay, so this just has all our links on here. If you scroll down towards the bottom, there is a light blue section right here. This is where you're going to kind of put your thoughts for today during this activity, but everybody's going to be putting their thoughts. So then when you walk away today, you're going to have knowledge from everybody in the classroom, which I always appreciate because it's like you could look at it, have ideas, but to get everybody's ideas is always super beneficial. So we kind of wanted to do that for you guys today so that you can go back, because I know I go to these conferences, you leave with tons of information and then you're back and you're like, okay, I got to remember it all and now apply it. So this will kind of give you something to reference when you return. Okay. And those of you on Zoom, we do not have breakout rooms. They're enabled today. So disabled. So what you'll want to do is just go ahead and fill out that digital piece and then you're sharing with everybody that way. So apologies for that. So here's what you're gonna do. You have 5 tasks to do today. We're gonna give you about 20 minutes. The first task is you're gonna find the visual icons to give directions. And then you wanna look at the PE icons, okay? And then you're gonna kind of discuss with your table mates, how could you use that at your site? Is there icons missing? Is there icons you like? You're just gonna kind of look at that one piece. Then when you're done doing that, you're gonna look at the break options in the catalog. And then see, do you have anything in your classroom that you could use as a break option? So it's gonna have examples in there, but we want you to kind of think back to where you are when you're home, when you're working, and see if you have something that you could utilize that you already have. The next one is the visual icons to clarify directions. Take a look at that. And then see, could you use something in there for maybe an upcoming lesson? Or if you don't teach, maybe somebody at your table does, and you can have that discussion with them. And then you're gonna go to the expectations for specific locations. And don't worry, this is gonna stay up here. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna ask yourself, how could you use this to support your students as a whole or as an individual? And then is there another location you would want to make visual expectations for that maybe isn't an example in there, but you could go back and apply? And then the last one, we want you to just pick a slide. Go through, pick a slide, and see if there's something new that you learned today that you can share out with others. Because like we said, it's a pretty big catalog. You're not going to have time to see everything and click on all the links. And so this is a great way for people to kind of share out maybe a slide that they learned about, and then you can see it on the digital piece.
And then at your tables, if some of you aren't wanting to scroll through it on your phone, we did print out like the ones that you had to find. So those are printed on your tables if you weren't wanting to be looking just on your phone. So you don't have the whole catalog, but you have the ones that we've asked you to look into. So I'll go ahead and start the timer and we'll just be roaming around if you guys have any questions.
We're going to take just a couple of minutes because we have some other things to show you today. But just a couple minutes to share out. Anybody want to share out the visual icons to give directions? Kind of either what they wrote down, what you were discussing, any thoughts? And if you're at home on Zoom, go ahead and you can put your share out in the chat and we'll share it. Nobody? Yes, thank you.
The like how to use a break card piece and like the individual break cards might be something to add to it. But I think like as different sites, you're going to add your own things to it, which is a really nice, like I already created a copy, added some blank slides to kind of put in our own things too. But it's wonderful to have it all organized in this way.
Anybody else? I had a lot of people ask, can I share this? Yes, share away. It's yours to share. I even asked, someone asked, can I share it with parents? Yes, visuals should be across the board. That's why we have those PE icons in there. So often those little pieces get missed. You're using it in your classroom, it's great. And then a student goes out to the playground, or they go out to PE, or they go to art or music, and they don't have the same supports that go with them. So it's really individualizing it for some of our students, and then it's just classroom wide or site wide, having this available for everybody. Okay, break options. What about that one? Any thoughts on that? Did anybody come up with maybe, yes? Well, let me get this to you so the people on Zoom can hear.
I said snack break and take a walk, like a nature walk, and look at the trees, the flowers, birds, amazing.
Love that idea. Anybody else about break options? Anybody come up with items in their classroom that they could use for break options?
having a lot of students with behavioral needs and they need breaks. Just showing them like non-verbal ways that they can make a request. I know a lot of teachers do like this for restroom, but you know, just like a T for a timeout, like I need a break or something like that, teaching them how to advocate for themselves.
It's super easy, right? You just kind of teach that prompt. You know what they need. You can give that to them. Okay. Visual icons to clarify directions. Anybody want to share out about that one or anything that they saw? Anybody use these already in their classroom? Yes? You want to share or you're just saying yes? Okay.
What we are learning.
I tried. I really tried. Yes, somebody on Zoom. Okay, implementation of these tools.
Yeah, we're gonna have time to go over implementation of a few specific tools. I for implementation with some of the other things, just remembering that they need to be taught first, taught when the students calm and in a place to learn. And that way, once they get the hang of it when they're calm, then you can start prompting it when they're upset or escalated or having a more difficult time. If you just go into it being like, here it is, it's on your desk, and there's no teaching around it, pairing it with a social story or modeling and practicing. I realize that's hard to find the time sometimes in gen ed, but that's specially designed instruction because you're teaching them a tool that they need. So you might, if a student's having a hard time, maybe don't do the math lesson that day with the group and focus on teaching those coping skills instead, or spending 10 minutes on it each lesson for a week before you get into math, just playing with that time that you have and making sure you're meeting their needs and their IEP goals.
An example of a scripted story, how to initiate the stories, like for a child for transitioning from one activity to another?
Yeah, for creating a social story. There is a slide on that in there with the directions. I'm not gonna know that I'm gonna copy those perfectly right now, but it would start with like identifying what they're feeling. So, or what has to happen in the classroom. Sometimes in class, I have to transition from something that I like doing to work. This makes me feel, identifying the feeling and being like, it's okay to feel that way sometimes. Here are some things I can do to help. And then you would teach like a transition toy or transition object. I get to take my stuffed bunny with me when I walk from this center to the next center. And then just practice reviewing that social story until they get the hang of it. So you're saying what needs to happen in class that the student's resistant to, identifying their feelings and validating them, and then giving them a strategy to use and modeling how that works. Does that help? I think, is it okay if we move on just time wise, or did someone have something they like really wanted to share with the last two bullets? Okay, let's go ahead and move on. So we have implementation guides for the first then, for a token board, and for a visual schedule. And they were adapted from another resource. And I tried to put it into user-friendly language so that you could give it to a paraprofessional or you could give it to a gen ed teacher, and it walks them through the steps of how to use that visual support with a student. The vast majority of our students that we work with IEPs have one of those on their IEP or all of them. So I figured this was a great place to start. You could, at your table, decide which one you want to look at. You can either pull them up. They're linked on this slide. They are also on your tables. I gave an extra copy of one specific one. So if you'd rather read off of the piece of paper, each table has one, and then I guess that would be the one you go off of. So I would like you to review the implementation guide. I hope this answers the question that we got from Zoom, and then if it doesn't, please feel free to put in a follow-up question to get more specific to your answer. But go ahead and review with your tables the implementation guide, and then I want you to answer the questions or discuss in your groups. What do you notice about the implementation guide? How can it be made student specific? On the backside is where I added some questions to help set it up. So if you ever had to fill it in and give it to a substitute or a sub-para, they would have all the students' information and needs on there. So how can it be made student specific? And then what materials are needed? So we're gonna go ahead and give about 5 minutes for you all to review that and discuss it. And then we'll come back together for the closing. Sound good? All right, let's go ahead and come back together. The timer went off. I love that you're all having great discussions. Let's come back together. The timer went off. Wonderful. For those of you that had the first then schedule, do I have anyone that would like to share out about what they noticed or how it could be made student specific? Just what you discussed about that first then implementation guide. I think it's my front tables.
So we talked about keeping it simple because we were using a lot of language. I forgot your name. Jennifer mentioned to keep it simple, use one word. And something that I mentioned, I went off on a tangent. I was like, oh, I can even use it at home because I have an 18-month-old. And then they shared, oh, I can use it with my teenager. So it's something that we can continue to use not only in classrooms, but even in our home, and hopefully help our children when they're in the classroom understand this. So.
Love that. I know that I use first then language with my little ones too at home. So not the visuals, but definitely the first this, then that, and keeping it really simple. That's right. What about the people that had the visual schedule? Do I have someone that would like to share what they noticed about that implementation guide?
Thank you for talking about the language because I think that's part of this too. I find that I'm using too much language, and as consistent as we can be with how we're saying it or what we're saying, we found to be more impactful for the students. As far as the visual schedule, one modification that we made was not just having the schedule on their tables, but if they like physically had to go to the carpet, that Velcro would go to near the carpet area. So it was part of their transition task, and wherever that, whatever the task was that they're doing, the icon went with it. So that kind of got them moving into that next step.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea, taking the icon as a transition object. I think we have it in our slides more as for centers, but you could definitely do that throughout the day so the student knows and has it with them. This is where I'm going next. And like you said, keeping in mind that the schedules have to go with them everywhere. Jen already mentioned it, but if they're going to PE, that visual schedule needs to come because they need to know what they do next, or if they're going to music or whatever. So making sure we're not just using it in one setting, but that it's being used across the student's day. And then, oh, yeah.
So from Zoom, we have preferred and most preferred items and pictures. I'm sorry, we're a little bit delayed, I think, from earlier conversations. Visual schedule, and yes, brevity is the best when discussing schedule.
Awesome, thank you for that. And yeah, figuring out what those most preferred activities are for the first then, and then up next with the token board. Those things aren't going to work if you don't have something that's highly motivating. So I do know that on the slides for choices of preferred activities, we included a couple forced choice reinforcement surveys, one with pictures, one without. to help you all if you're trying to figure out what could that motivating factor be, because some of our kiddos, it's tricky to figure out what that would be. Okay, and then any last comments on the token board? Okay, good. I mean, it's good to know that you have these as a resources. So I know we didn't all get a look at all three of them. Whoops, or maybe you did, but at least you have them. And I envision giving them, if I were teaching still, I envision filling them out for my students that had them and having them on file for when there was a sub aide or a sub classroom teacher. That's like my main idea of how I would use them, but I'm sure you all could come up with more creative ways. So we're gonna go into our closing time. Let Jen lead it.
Okay, so we've given you a lot of information today, a lot of resources to take back with you and share. What we would like for you to do these last 5 minutes is just kind of some reflection, set a goal for yourself. Okay, so what's one resource you would like to implement right away? Like I said, you go away with a lot of knowledge from these conferences, and then you go back and you're like, okay, now I forgot. Like, how am I going to implement this or that? So really just giving you guys about 5 minutes just to take that time and set some goals for yourself. Second one, what is a resource you'd like to adjust for a specific student? So did you see something you thought, oh, you know what? I have a student for this. This would be great, or this is something I really want to try. And then what are you going to adjust? Kind of fill that out. I will adjust blank for blank by doing what are you needing to adjust, or maybe you don't need to adjust it in it. You want to just implement it right like it is. And then the last one, what is one resource you would like to learn more about by watching the videos? We didn't really go into the videos. We didn't give you a lot of time to do the videos. There's quite a few in there. So maybe there was one that you came across that you said, you know what, I really need to watch this. So just those three things. We'll give you the last couple of minutes, and then we'll have time for like 2 minutes of question and answer. And then if you have anything else that you want to ask us, we'll be in the room for a few minutes after.
And then there is a spot on the digital home base if you're one of those people that really wants to write it down and commit to it and put it out there so someone will be holding you accountable or see your great idea. There is space to write your reflection on the digital home base. All right. It sounds like everyone had time to reflect. I know we don't have a ton of time for Q&A, and I know most of you got a hold of us if you had any questions, but is there any lingering thoughts, last questions anybody has? Okay, again, we can stay behind for a few minutes if you don't want to ask it in front of the whole room. Our email is here on the last slide. We're super appreciative to have such a great turnout and have you all here. We hope that you found something that you liked and can take back with you after this conference to implement. Yeah, we really appreciate you being here, so thank you.